All right. So, hello and welcome. I'm Michelle Kirsch, and I'm a transformational coach. And I also do Akashic Records readings. My goal is really to help my clients discover and align to their purpose, to their life purpose. So, today I'm talking all about alignment. And the topic of my webinar is how to find alignment when you have no idea what you want. And this is something that I know a lot about because I spent years in that space of not knowing what I want or saying that I didn't know what I wanted. And so what I want to share today is just a different approach for how to deal with that and how to get out of that stuck place if you're feeling like you're not sure what the next step is and you don't know what to do and you don't really know what you want, but you know that you want to find that purpose and find that alignment. So I'm actually going to be sharing some slides today just to help us focus in on the content. So I'm going to get that set up right now. There we go. Okay, there we go. So welcome again to How to Find Alignment when you have no idea what you want. So thank you so much for being here. I know that your time is valuable. So I just want to share that if you're in the right place if you feel like something is missing in your life, or you have that nagging feeling that there's something more or something you should be doing, but you have no idea what that is. You might feel unfulfilled in your career or your business, but you don't know what you should be doing instead. And maybe you've had trouble finding your purpose or connecting to your true self. You're also in the right place if you constantly feel stuck or confused, or like you find a little clarity, but then you come right back to that place of feeling unsure again. So if you know what you don't want, or you know that what you're currently doing isn't working, but you're not sure what to do instead, then this webinar is for you. So stick around because these are all symptoms that you might be out of alignment in your life. So before we dive into the content, I just want to share a little bit about myself in case you are new to me and new in my community. So I'm a certified transformational coach and soul realignment practitioner. So I merge the two of those, the coaching with the Akashic Records readings. And my goal is to help my clients create a life that feels good from the inside out through aligning with their purpose. Now, I personally connected to my purpose and what purpose even really means through years of trial and error. So I started on this journey of self-discovery and alignment over 10 years ago because I was really trying to understand my purpose. I had that feeling that I mentioned on the last slide that there was something more, that something was missing, but I didn't know what it was. And so I started with books and personality tests and courses and even psychic readings, trying to get clarity around who I really was and what I was meant to do. I also moved through different jobs, tried different tools like things like meditation. I learned Reiki. I started working more with my intuition. And all of that brought me to where I am today. But it was a pretty winding road to get here. And it really brought me to have a different perspective on what purpose and alignment even means. So what I want to do is share what I've learned and help you to find that kind of clarity for yourself. Basically, I want to help you rediscover your purpose through alignment so that you can start seeing the stepping stones in front of you that will move you in that direction and get out of that stuck place. So here's what we're going to cover today. So what is alignment and why should I care about it? Why you don't need to have a clear vision for your future and why you probably never will. I'm going to share 5 clarity breakthrough questions that will lead you towards alignment. The one question you must ask yourself if you want more flow and ease, and the secret to feeling true fulfillment. And it's probably not what you think. The end of today's webinar, I'm also going to talk a little bit about how we can continue working together. So if this really resonates with you, but you know that you want some support going forward, I'm going to talk about how we can do that together too. But even if you're not interested in that, I'm going to share a lot of content today that's going to help you move forward, find alignment, even if you're not really sure what it is that you're looking for. So let's dive in. What is alignment? So you probably have an idea of what alignment is if you're here on this webinar today. I actually looked it up in the dictionary and found a definition that said a state of agreement or cooperation. And I liked that because the way that I look at alignment is basically finding that agreement or that cooperation between your inner and your outer self. So you can think of this as your inner self or even your soul. I like to call it your inner wise self, but basically who you are at your core, who you are authentically. That needs to be aligned, so in cooperation with or in agreement with what's going on in your outer world. So that's your actions, your decisions, your choices, your interactions with others, your relationships, how you show up in the world, how you spend your time, all of that. So it's really about having a match between your inner and your outer world. And I put here that aligning your inner and your outer world means finding ways to let your true self shine. So why should you care about alignment? Well, I just talked about what alignment means. But the more that you can bring your outer world and your inner world into alignment, the better you're going to feel. So it's really about helping you to feel fulfilled, helping you to feel like you are living your purpose. Because when you're in alignment, you actually live your purpose by default. Alignment is your soul's way of showing you the path towards your purpose. So alignment shows you when things feel good or don't feel good. When things are in alignment with your inner and your outer world, you feel like you're fulfilled. You feel like you're living your purpose. So it literally points you in the right direction. And I'm going to dive into a little bit more about what that actually looks like. So what does it look like to be out of alignment, and what does it look like to be in alignment? So let's start with being out of alignment, because this is probably how you're feeling if you're on this webinar. So symptoms of being out of alignment: you feel unfulfilled, uninspired, maybe disconnected from your career or your relationships or even just life in general. You might have gotten used to feeling this way, and you might even consider this your normal. You always question your decisions. You tend to feel unsure a lot. You might have tried to make the right choices or the smart choices because you probably worry about what other people think of you. And you might actually also secretly judge other people who aren't making what you consider to be the right choices. Another symptom of being out of alignment is feeling a little bit jealous when you see someone who is living with excitement, who seems to be passionate about what they're doing. And you're probably wondering why you haven't experienced that in your own life, or you might even wonder if it's even possible for you. A few more symptoms of being out of alignment: you tend to feel low energy or exhausted a lot of the time. You might, experience temporary inspiration and motivation, but you tend to lose steam quickly. You feel like you've made some mistakes in your past that have led you to this point, and now you're stuck. You're stuck in this life that you've created, and you might sometimes imagine what it would be like to go back in time and do things differently. And finally, you know deep inside of you that you're not fully living your purpose. But when someone asks you what your purpose is or what you want instead, you genuinely don't know. So if you can relate to any of this, if you saw yourself in any of these symptoms, then you might be experiencing this lack of alignment. And I know for me, I could relate to many of these before. So if this is you, don't worry, hang in there. We're going to talk about what to do. But first, let's contrast that with what it looks like to be in alignment. So this is what it looks like to be in alignment. You have a strong sense of who you are. You know your values. You know your strengths, your gifts, your contributions. You know what your priorities are, and you know your boundaries. Another symptom of being in alignment is that even though you might still feel confused or unsure from time to time, you understand that clarity will come at the right time. You also understand that negative feelings are a measure of alignment, not failure. And you use this to make changes and adjustments. Now, this is so important because alignment isn't a permanent thing. And I think that a lot of people misunderstand that and don't realize that alignment will come and go depending on what actions you're taking, what you're experiencing in the world, what life throws at you. And that's okay. There's a misunderstanding that, once you found clarity or once you found alignment, that it's permanent and you're going to stay like that. But that's not true. And we're going to talk more about that later. But for now, just know that alignment is actually a measure. So it's not a permanent state. And that is okay. And then I put the final symptom for being in alignment. You feel more joy and more ease in your daily life. So you just find more happiness overall. You find more fulfillment overall. So hopefully these are things that you want to experience. Like I said, alignment isn't about making your life perfect. It's about making the most of your life. So this sounds great, but how do we find alignment, right? We start with awareness. We start by becoming aware of the little things, what feels good and what doesn't feel good, because we all can recognize that in our life. So we don't need that huge sweeping, wave of clarity. We can just start by paying attention to what feels good and what doesn't feel good. Alignment, like I said, is a measure. It tells us when we're on track. It tells us when we're fully expressed and when we're living our purpose versus when we're doing things that aren't working for us and that don't fit our gifts and don't fit our personality, where we aren't expressed or showing up fully. So the way that we're feeling shows us whether we're in alignment or not. And you can start by making small changes that will bring you back towards the life that feels good. And when I say feels good, I mean feels good for you personally, what feels right for you. The more you do this, the more clarity you're going to experience. So speaking of clarity, I've mentioned clarity a couple times because clarity and alignment go hand in hand. Awareness brings clarity about what feels good and what doesn't feel good, and that in turn will lead us to alignment. But clarity is also often misunderstood. So I wanted to talk about a few clarity myths before we dive into what to do about this, because you might be feeling these and you might be putting a lot of extra pressure on yourself that you don't need to have. So here's the first clarity myth. In order to make decisions or take new actions, you have to feel 100% certain it's the right step. So have you ever felt that way, that you cannot move forward until you know for sure that it's the right thing? And I can tell you from experience that you will never feel 100% certain. You're just going to have to start. Clarity myth number 2, you need to have a clear vision of your future in order to move forward. So again, sometimes we feel like we need to have that big picture. We need to see the final destination of where we're going before we can start. And again, that's not going to happen. So we can just stop trying to achieve that clear vision and just start acting. Clarity myth number 3, you need to fully understand all aspects of your purpose in order to live it. So again, we don't need that full understanding. We just need what to do next. Clarity myth number 4, your purpose is clearly defined. And clarity myth number 5, once you've found clarity, it should last. So your purpose is not set out in stone, to the extent that a lot of us think. There's a lot of room for flexibility within your purpose. And also, like I mentioned, clarity, just like alignment, is not something that's permanent. Once you've found clarity, you need to act on it and you need to hold it. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But it doesn't actually stay. You don't stay in that space of crystal clear, knowing. That's actually something you have to cultivate yourself. So I want to know, have you ever believed any of these clarity myths? I know I have. So let me know if you've believed some of these before, because I know I definitely stayed stuck for quite a long time because I believed some of these myths. So let's talk about the truth then about clarity. So I talked about the myths of clarity, but the truth about clarity is that clarity comes from both awareness and action. So I talked about awareness already, that you need to start paying attention to what feels good and what doesn't feel good, because that will bring clarity. But also you have to take action, because you don't actually know how something's going to feel unless you've tried it. Unfortunately, for all of us who like to live in our minds and think things through before we do them, there's just no way that you can figure it all out in your head. You have to actually start taking action in order to receive the next steps and receive further clarity. Clarity also comes as you're ready for it. So that's partly what I'm mentioning there. You're not going to get told, you need to become a published author when you haven't even started writing yet. So even though that might be part of your purpose, you need to actually start taking those first steps so that, maybe it's just journaling, maybe it's just writing some short stories or writing a blog, and starting with that. And then as you do those steps, then you're going to see what the next step is. The next truth is that clarity usually presents the next steps, not the full picture. So that's what I was just talking about too, is that you'll probably only see the next couple steps, maybe even just one step. You're not going to get the whole vision of what is, in store for you. One, because it's not defined. And 2, because even though you might get little glimpses of it, you're not, it's going to depend on what steps you take. So you're not going to get any kind of full picture. It's going to present as you take action. Another truth about clarity will show up as clues in your daily life. So you have to pay attention. You have to notice. Bring that awareness in that I'm talking about. Notice what feels good and what doesn't feel good. Notice what little ideas you have, what little sparks you have within you that suggest maybe try this or maybe try that. So you really have to pay attention. Clarity brings in information, but you have to hold the clarity and move it forward. So this is another misconception, is that once you have clarity, it's going to be all, smooth going forward. But clarity comes in those moments, you get that clarity. You have to actually take that and hold it and keep moving forward, because you will absolutely start having some doubts, start having, your mind is going to start going to all the reasons why it's not going to work. All that stuff is still going to happen. And you're going to think, oh, my clarity is gone. I don't feel that anymore. But the truth is, it's up to you to bring it forward. And that's where that last one, that last truth comes in. Clarity is a habit, because it is up to you to carry that clarity forward and practice doing that. So that's where it literally becomes a habit, which is something that a lot of people don't think about. So how do you feel about these clarity truths? For me, once I realized this, I stopped putting so much pressure on myself to always have full clarity because I realized that it doesn't happen that way. So I shouldn't expect it to happen that way. And instead, I was able to just work with what I was given. And I became a lot more okay with that, okay with not having the full picture, okay with trusting this first step instead of looking for all of the answers all at once. So it just took a lot of pressure off to know this and to understand this and to actually start working with this. Now, I do want you to experience some clarity so that you can start moving forward. And so that's why I'm sharing these clarity breakthrough questions. Now, if you are watching the recording after, feel free to pause this and go grab a pen and paper so that you can write this down and take some time to answer them. But if you're on the call with me live right now, then you can always come back to the replay later because I will be sending that out. And just write these questions down. And then after the webinar, take some time to go through them. Maybe grab a cup of tea and a journal or a notebook and just kind of sit with them and see what comes up for you. These are the questions I always start with when someone is feeling stuck, including myself when I'm feeling stuck and I need to start moving forward and I want to get out of that stuck place. So question number 1 is, what do I want more of? So what is it that you want to bring more into your life? Most of us at least have some ideas, and even if it's not something specific, it might be feelings and experiences and that kind of thing. Just start to write down what comes to you. What do you want more of in your life? Question number 2, what do you want less of? So what's not working? Usually that's the easiest thing to point out, so you might start there with just going through the things that aren't working and the things that don't feel good right now. And then you can look at the opposite of that, which might be what you want more of in number 1. So it might help to reverse those questions if you're stuck. Question number 3, how do I want to feel? So a lot of times when we're trying to figure out what we want, we're actually looking for specific feelings. We might want to feel more freedom. We might want to feel more fulfillment. We might want to feel valued. So think about what you're actually wanting to feel, and that might help you to break through and get unstuck. Question number 4, what do you want to experience? So ask yourself if there's anything that's been popping up in your mind lately, any types of experiences or activities or events or just day-to-day things that have been popping up in your mind, little ideas, little sparks in your mind, and write those down because those might be clues as well. And then question number 5, what matters to you? So what is truly important to you? Just again, see what comes up when you ask yourself that question. You don't have to have all the answers to all 5 questions. You probably won't. That's okay. You might just have a couple of ideas. That's okay. The idea is that these are just going to spark that energy within you that's going to start sharing some of those clues. So it's going to give you a starting point. So take some time, like I said, to sit with these questions, see what comes up. So how do these questions help? Like I've said, they're clues that are going to help point you towards alignment, because what you want and those little ideas, those little sparks in you are important. They're actually clues that are pointing you towards your alignment and pointing you towards your purpose. So when you focus on what feels good, you're going to be automatically directed towards your purpose. And this is because our purpose is directly related to how we express ourselves and how we show up in the world. And part of that is actually related to our strongest gifts in the world. So I'm going to talk more about this because it's actually an important piece of feeling aligned and feeling on purpose. Now, if you think about alignment and you think, okay, well, what's one thing that feels good to everyone? The answer is that everybody feels good when they're able to show up fully as themselves and be valued and be appreciated and be accepted in that way. So expressing ourselves fully feels good to everyone. Now, we all have certain life areas where we naturally shine. And these are areas that we're going to be naturally drawn to. And you can think about the times that you lose track of time or where you get lost in your work, but we all have that something special to offer. In fact, you might not even realize that you have this something special, and I'm going to share what to do if that's the case in a minute. But it's in those moments that you're really living your purpose through soul expression. And I just want to clarify, when I'm talking about our soul gifts, I'm talking about the gifts that we're born with, the gifts that are deep down in our core that we literally can't help but express. So all of this is related. The awareness, the clarity, the alignment, the purpose, our gifts, it's all related. And expressing our gifts is a big part of it. And that's why I'm bringing it up, because it's one of the major areas that we want to pay attention to in terms of alignment. And I'm going to share why that is in a minute. But first, if you're not sure what your soul gifts are, what you're bringing to the table, if you're confused about that, I want to give you some ideas on how to figure out what your biggest soul gift or soul gifts are. So again, if you have a pen and paper handy, you can write down these questions. And then after the webinar, take some time to go through them and see what comes up for you. Now, I do want to mention that if you've had a Divine You soul clarity reading with me, then you've got a bit of a head start here because you already know what your soul gift is. So if that's you, you can still do this exercise because it'll give you some further clarity, but you have a little head start there because you already know what your soul gift is. But if you haven't had that reading, then you can brainstorm or journal on the following questions. Question number 1 is, what have other people always complimented you on or thanked you for? So think about the times where you have done something, participated in something, helped someone out, and they were really thankful for the way that you were able to come in and take care of something for them or fix something for them or teach them something. Maybe people, compliment you on some type of artwork that you do or your photography skills. Maybe people compliment you on the way that you're able to resolve conflicts or troubleshoot or problem solve. Maybe they compliment you on your ability to do public speaking or that kind of thing. So think about all those times that you get complimented or where people are really thankful for what you're able to do for them. The second question is, what makes time bend for you? So here I'm talking about those times where you're so engrossed in your work that you literally lose track of time. And it doesn't have to just be work. It could be an activity. So you're so, present and focused and absorbed in what you're doing that you don't even notice the time going by. Or another, good clue for us these days is that you don't check your phone. So if you are, so engrossed in this activity that you don't check your phone for a couple hours, that's a pretty good clue that you are doing something that is in alignment and that is where you're expressing your soul gift. And then the third question is, what secret desire do you have for yourself that you've never fully shared with anyone? So this is a good one because our soul whispers, our inner wise self whispers little clues to us. And sometimes we might think that they are too out there, too big, too scary, too hard, whatever. So we don't really share them with people, or at least not very many people. But you probably have these little seeds in the back of your mind of things that you think, I wonder if I could do that. I wonder if I could actually do that. those are important. Those are secret, little soul desires that your soul has planted there for you. So you don't need to tell anyone about it or anything like that, but just write them down, because those, again, are going to be clues as you pull all of this together. And I did put a link up on the screen if you're listening. It's michellekirsch.com/life-purpose. And if you go to that link, I actually have a free PDF download with these 3 questions. So if you'd like to go to that and download it, you can, and work through them there. Otherwise, you can just, write them out in a notebook or whatever works for you. So let's talk about how to put this all together now. So after you've done this and you've, done the brainstorming on those 3 questions, then I want you to look at all of your answers and see if you can pull out any clues or any patterns or anything that keeps coming up. So notice where you shine in life. Notice how you love spending your time. And notice what's calling you or what's whispering to you. So start paying attention to, is there something that's coming up again and again in my answers? Is there something that has come up multiple times for me? And those are the clues that you want to really focus in on. So I mentioned that I was bringing this up for a reason, an important reason, and that is because the secret to feeling true fulfillment that I mentioned at the start of this webinar, the secret to true fulfillment is finding an audience for your gifts. So these exercises are going to point you in the right direction. They're going to give you an idea of what, your gifts are. But just expressing them isn't enough. Because what happens is if you express them in a way that is not intentional for a particular audience who wants and appreciates your gifts, you're going to either feel like it's not truly a gift, or you're going to feel confused about whether it's a gift, or you're not going to feel the same fulfillment as if it was someone who wants, needs, and appreciates what you have to offer. So just to give you an example, let's say that you had a real gift of teaching. We'll just use that. I'm just going to pull that out as an example really quickly. So let's say that one of your soul gifts was the ability to teach others. And let's say that you're starting to notice that about yourself, and it's naturally going to come out in your life. But let's say that you're trying to teach, your daughter things. You're trying to teach your husband things. You're trying to teach basically anybody that comes along. Those people may not be interested in what you have to say. They may not want to learn from you. They may not be looking for that information at this time. And so they may not value and appreciate the way that you're able to explain things, the way that you're able to make them understand, because they want nothing to do with that right now. Maybe your daughter's more interested in learning from somebody else, and it's not a good fit. So when you're trying to kind of push your gift on someone who doesn't want it, then it doesn't feel like a gift. You're not feeling fulfilled. And that is a big mistake that I have seen both with myself and with my clients, is that we think, okay, I figured out what my gift is. I feel like this is my purpose. But then you start to share it with your friends and your family, and they're not receptive to it necessarily. And so then we think, well, maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe this isn't, my true soul gift. Maybe this isn't part of my purpose. But it's not that you're wrong about what your gift is. It's that you're sharing it with the wrong people. So you really want to surround yourself with people who want, need, and appreciate what you have to offer. Fulfillment comes through that being of service, but it has to be in an authentic and intentional way. It has to be to people who want to receive it. And it's that give and take that actually brings that feeling of fulfillment. So it's something that I spend a lot of time talking about with my clients because it's so important. I work through this with them and help them to figure out who their audience is and how to intentionally share their gifts. So hopefully that makes sense. It's definitely a key piece to feeling alignment and feeling like you're living your purpose. Now, I had one other thing that I wanted to share back at the beginning of the webinar when I talked about what we were going to cover. And it was one question that you must ask yourself if you want more flow and ease in your life, aka alignment. And that question is, does my life fit me, or am I trying to fit into my life? So going back to our definition of alignment, which was agreement between your inner and outer world, I want you to think about whether this is happening to you. Are you trying to squeeze yourself into a life that you think you should want or that you think you should have? Or are you allowing your inner wise self to really guide you by following those clues, by following that guidance, the whispers, the desires? So think about how this is showing up in your life. Are you trying to create your outer world based on your inner world? Or are you trying to fit your inner world into the outer world you think you should have? So it's a big question. It's a tough question. Again, I suggest taking some time to journal about this after the webinar and see if that rings true for you and see if that is something that's happening in your life right now. Now, the good news is alignment is possible. So you can have a life that feels true to you. If that last statement, is ringing true to you, that you have been trying to fit yourself into a life you think you should have, you can change that around. You can start to work on alignment and bringing in the outer world that matches your inner world. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. And you don't have to do things just because you think you should. Right now, depending on where you are, this might not seem possible. It might seem like it would be really hard to do this. But what you probably need is a shift in perspective. All these things that we've been talking about, you don't have to turn your life upside down. You don't have to completely change everything right now, but you can start following those clues, start moving towards alignment, and things will start to adjust in your life. So my challenge for you is to start today. So after this webinar today, after you're done listening, I want you to go work through those questions, work through the exercises that I talked about. Look over your answers to the 5 clarity breakthrough questions. Look over your answers when it comes to your soul gifts. And then choose one thing, one action, one new action that you can take today. Literally today. Unless it's late at night, and then, do it tomorrow. But it doesn't have to be anything big. It might be doing a little bit of research into something that, one of those little deep desires. It might be, researching a class that you could take or something like that. It might be sending an email that you need to send, or returning someone's call or making a call. It might be making a decision around some new boundaries, depending on what's come up in your clarity questions. It does not have to be something big. Like I said, you don't have to turn your life upside down, but choose one action based on everything that we've covered today to take right away. And feel free to let me know what it is. You could share this in the Nourish and Shine Facebook group on Facebook, or you could even email me at michelle@michellekirsch.com. Send me an email and tell me what step that you're taking today if you'd like that little bit of extra accountability. So I wanted to share, as we wrap up here, I wanted to share a quote that I really like. And it's, each step you take reveals a new horizon. You've taken the first step today. Now I challenge you to take another. So I love this quote for a couple reasons. One, it talks about how clarity works and how, what I've shared about clarity, that as you take a step forward, you're going to see things again from a new perspective. So a lot of times, like we said, we can't see what we're supposed to do. We can't see all the steps from that beginning of the path. But each time you take a step forward, you see a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. But you have to take that first step. And then the challenge is right there, just like I said to you guys. You take one step, and then you take another, and then you take another. And it doesn't have to be life-changing things. It can start with just little, small things that, things that you want to let go of in your life, things that you want to bring more of into your life. Think about all those things that we've talked about so far, and choose one thing to do today, and then choose the next thing, and then choose the next thing. And you might stop, after a few steps and reevaluate, go through those questions again, see if it's still relevant, see if there's anything new that's coming up for you. Because like I said, alignment is a measure. So as you move forward, then you can check in again and say, okay, does this feel good now, or does this not feel good? If not, then you pick a new step and you keep moving. And each time that you take a step, you're going to get more clarity, more perspective. So I hope that makes sense. And I hope that you really take this challenge, because so many times we sign up for things like this. And this is just a free webinar, but you might have even taken classes. You might have even worked with a coach before. You might have done all sorts of things and read a lot of information. But if you don't actually do something with it, nothing's going to change. So I hope that this will inspire you to make today the day that you do make a change. Now, before I go, I want to share an invitation with you. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar that I would share how we could continue to work together. So if this is hitting home for you and this is resonating and you see yourself in the things that I've talked about here today, then you're ready to start moving into alignment and you're ready to start finding your purpose. And so this invitation is for you. But I want you to know that even if we don't work together, there's plenty of information in this webinar that you can take action on right away. So if you know that you don't want to work with me, that is totally okay. You can end here, you can take what you've learned, and you can go run with it right now, and that is totally fine. And I hope and wish you all the best with that. But if you know that you do want some extra support, I know for me, getting extra external support was really key in helping me to move forward, because I really needed that confirmation and that validation that I was right, that I was on the right track. And I needed someone to talk to who understood that. So if that sounds like you, then I would love to invite you into my new program. It's called Into Alignment, and it's a coaching program that is going to help you uncover who you really are, what you're meant to do, so that you can begin to shift your life into alignment with your true purpose. And I'm really excited about this program because I designed it to be exactly what I needed and what I wished I had when I was going through this whole process myself. And because I've been there, I understand what it's like. I understand what you're going through. And I would love to be the one to help you break through that place of feeling stuck and feeling like you don't know what you want. So I want to share a little bit about how this program is different from most coaching programs that I've done and most coaching programs that are out there in general. So it's a 3-month coaching program where I work closely with you one-on-one, so over Skype or over the phone, just the two of us, to help you uncover your soul blueprint so that you can start to align your outer world with your inner world. And the reason that this is so different is that it's based on your unique soul blueprint. So it goes beyond the usual coaching tools and exercises, which are great on their own. But because I do Akashic Records as well as being a coach, I'm able to do these readings that show me your soul blueprint. So I can kind of peer into your soul blueprint and help you understand who you are at soul level, what your gifts are at soul level, and how that applies to your purpose. And then we take that information and we can move forward with it in a really practical way. So I talked a little bit about how at the beginning, how I, read a lot of books and went to workshops, taken courses, and maybe you've done some of those things too. Maybe you've even hired a coach before, like I said, and you didn't get the results that you were hoping for. And the reason that this doesn't always all work, and why some of the things that I had tried before didn't necessarily work or didn't result in lasting clarity, is that we all have our own unique soul blueprint. So someone else's system just isn't necessarily going to cut it for us. And if you don't know yourself deeply, you're going to spend a lot of time figuring that out, a lot of time on trial and error and, trying other people's systems, and it just might not work for you. So after going through all of that myself, I could finally see how bringing these readings into my coaching was able to give people that validation of who they were so they could trust that, so they could actually move forward with that information and create a plan that was going to work for them with their unique personality and their unique soul blueprint. So I really wanted to go beyond the usual coaching tools and exercises and create a program that took that unique soul blueprint into consideration and go deeper with it and bring a different perspective on purpose and on success and all that kind of thing. So one without the other just isn't enough. Just having a reading on its own is great too, but it's often having someone to talk to about it and working with someone that can help you see how to apply it in your everyday life that's going to make a difference. So here's what we'll cover in Into Alignment. Like I said, it's one-on-one coaching, so it's definitely personal. In month 1, we cover your soul blueprint. So this includes 2 different readings where I will share your divine gifts, your soul personality, any themes that your soul is exploring, and your unique process for creating results in your life. So like I said, it's 2 different readings that you'll receive, and then we will be hopping on the phone or on Skype to go through it all so that you really have a good understanding of who you are at soul level, and you have that validation and that confirmation so you can stop searching and finally move forward. In month number 2, we're going to talk about alignment through action. So this is where you're going to start deciding on what specific actions that you need to take. This is like the practical stuff. So this is where we're going to take what we've learned in month 1, and you're going to start implementing it and incorporating it into your life. And we can look at your career, or if you have a business, we can look at that to see if there's any changes that need to be made. And then we can look at some other life areas as well, depending on what's coming up as a priority for you. So it's really an implementation month. And like I said, we'll be having calls. There's 2 calls per month to help answer any questions and help you brainstorm and figure out what it is that you want to do. And then month 3, I call it busting through blocks. So we'll talk about releasing anything that's holding you back, some tools to create lasting change. And there's another reading in this section that I do that will go into any past or present life blocks that might be holding you back. We're also going to look at any fears that come up and beliefs that come up, because as you start to do that action in the 2nd month, things are going to come up. And a lot of times we have patterns that show up over and over because of different beliefs and fears and blocks that we have. So we'll look at all of those and talk about the strategies for releasing those. And I will, of course, help you along the way with anything else that comes up. So I have down at the bottom here helpful workbooks and reflection prompts that you can do in between calls. So these will be more questions, kind of like what I shared today, that will just help you to find the clarity and then help you to take that clarity and turn it into action so that you can actually experience alignment and experience living your purpose. And you also have access to me by email. So between calls or for any questions that come up for you, you can just send me an email and I will personally respond. And that way you don't have to get, if you feel a little bit stuck, you don't have to stay there. You can get help right away and keep moving forward. So it's lots and lots of support basically in this program. So I will share a link in a minute where you can get more information on this program. Or you can definitely send me an email, and I'll share that in a minute as well on the screen. And if you want to talk to me personally, you can just send me an email and I can set up a clarity call with you too, so that you can just talk to me about the program and make sure that it's the right fit for you. Because I always want anybody that signs up with anything for me to be totally confident in your choice. Now, I know I shared at the beginning that when it comes to clarity, you don't necessarily have full clarity and you're not always going to feel 100% confident. So you might still have some fear about joining this coaching program, and that's okay. But I want you to feel deep within you that, yep, this is the right thing for me. So to wrap up, just imagine if you were able to feel whole and complete, like you could stop searching. That was a big one for me. Just stop searching and actually trust who I am and trust myself moving forward. Making decisions with clarity and confidence. Using your soul gifts to your advantage. Understanding your unique soul blueprint and purpose. Confidently creating a life that feels good. And having a toolbox that you can refer to anytime you need clarity. So beyond this program, whatever comes your way, whatever life throws at you, you can go back to this and you can find clarity again and go through that process again anytime that you need to. So I would love to help you move towards this vision of yourself. So enrollment is open for my program Into Alignment right now. You can go to michellekirsch.com/Into Alignment. And like I said, if you have any questions, just reach out at michelle@michellekirsch.com. I am happy to answer them. I answer them all personally myself. And if you go to that link, you'll find some additional information on the program. And yeah, I would love to talk to you about it. I would love to have you in this program. It's probably my favorite coaching program that I've ever created because it really brings together those two elements and highlights my strengths as well and my soul gifts. So I would love to have you in the program. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. So if you've stayed to the end, thank you so much for joining me. It was so much fun to share all of this with you, and I hope that you had some great insights into how to move out of that stuck place. And I hope that you're able to take this content that we talked about today and take these questions and work through them and see what comes up for you and actually take some actions like I talked about. I would love to hear about any insights or actions that you're taking. My email, again, is michelle@michellekirsch.com. Definitely reach out. I would love to hear about it. And thank you again. And I look forward to hearing from you. Have a wonderful day.